Stanford hopes are still alive. Pac-12 hopes still alive for a college football playoff. But regardless, that should be out of the minds and hearts of anyone connected to Cardinal Nation right now, because that was just one fabulous football game that was survived by the Stanford Cardinal. We bring in Nick Dempsey of Rule of Tree after the 30-28 win. Nick, breathe a sigh of relief. I know that the mind probably isn't working too well, even though I'm going to lean on you for some analysis here. That final drive was pretty amazing because we had a would-be fumble, and it hit me in watching the Stanford reaction to the play that was overturned and given back to Washington State on the fumble call on the field that was given back to Falk in the offense on the forward motion of the throw, that these reverses of the rulings on the field really play with these players' emotions. You saw Stanford players going to their knees thinking the game was over, and then they've got to line back up and get ready to play right after that. So these reversals of fortunes are crazy.
Yeah, the Pac-12 refs have a bit of a reputation, and it's not particularly good. But they they thought they had it on that play. They thought it was over. I'm impressed were able to come back out and finish strong, because that's got to take the steam out of you to think you finally pull off a comeback, and then turns out, oh no, you didn't. And I'm impressed. I'm impressed those young 21, 22-year-old kids were able to stay focused in pretty bad weather and pull out the win.
And then to have to cross the fingers with a kid kicking the field goal who had already made 5 consecutive field goals, that's pretty nerve-wracking as well.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, that kicker had hit 5 for 5. That's so heartbreaking for him. But I mean, the Washington State kicker, he did his part. But geez, they pulled it. He pulled it. He pulled it too far. But I give him a lot of credit. I give the Stanford defense a lot of credit. They really showed up. They gave up a lot of points, but they showed up when they needed to.
Yeah, they really did, because the 5 field goals are obviously 5 trips to the red zone, in which Washington State coming in was 17 of 20 converting those situations into touchdowns, and were held out of the end zone the first 5 trips to the red zone. We could take this in so many directions, Nick, but we'll start right there with the Stanford defense. Playing well in the first half, you're going to give up plays to Washington State. The one downside that I saw that really jumped out to me is it appeared as though Washington State's wide receivers were really winning the one-on-one matchups on the outside. If anything was a contested ball to the outside or something needed to be high-pointed, it appeared as though the likes of Don Williams, Gabe Marks, and those guys were winning those battles.
Yeah, Washington State's loaded at wide receiver. They've got so much talent just sort of hidden away up there in Pullman. Um, it's really, really kind of impressive how many guys they have. I believe last year they pretty much had Craycraft, maybe one other guy who was good, and now they're just stacked. Um, they finally started to get some pressure on Falk, though, and that helped. But those wide receivers for Washington State were really winning all of those battles.
And how about the 2 huge plays turned in by Quentin Meeks, the
Oh,
true freshman? Wow.
not too bad, not too shabby for an 18, 19-year-old kid. I don't know what you were doing at 19, but it probably wasn't that
Yeah.
impressive. And at clutch moments too. Not just that they were great plays, but the timing of those plays, I really, really turned the momentum of that game.
Interesting to see that flipping the script to the Stanford offense, that Christian McCaffrey obviously was a huge focus for the Washington State defense. They weren't going to let McCaffrey win this game and take it over as he has so many times in recent weeks, even going to the point of pooch kicking and allowing Stanford to set up at the 35, 40, 45-yard line most of the night. It turned out where Kevin Hogan really hurt this Washington State defense with his legs, despite not being a dynamic playmaker with his feet. He had 3 or 4 enormous runs.
Yeah, when you compare this game to when Stanford lost first week of the season in Northwestern, Kevin Hogan is the key difference there. When Northwestern defeated Stanford, They attacked the Stanford offensive line, really dominated up front, but Hogan didn't step up and take over. This game tonight, Hogan absolutely just came out and took the game over after a shaky first half. Second half, Hogan stood up, and that was the difference because the first half of this game, the script was playing out very similar to their loss against Northwestern, but Hogan made the difference, and I think that probably just comes with senior leadership and just having been down this road so many times before.
Yeah, the Washington State front seven, they were definitely crashing down, shooting gaps, getting into the
Oh yeah,
backfield. They were rushing Hogan. They were in on him, getting crucial sacks or hurries at the right times. And the Washington State defense played out of their minds for most of this game compared to what we typically see out of the Cougars. Even though they're improved defensively this year, they are still a typical Washington State defense for the most part. And they really stepped up as well.
yeah. That first half, they were nuts. Most of the second half too, but big plays at the right time from Hogan. And then on the other side of the ball, you go back to that red zone efficiency for Washington State. Any single one of those touchdowns or those red zone trips, they convert for a touchdown. It's a totally different game. But they asked so much of Washington State's defense, and I think they came through for most of it. They couldn't execute, and Kevin Hogan could, and that was the difference.
So I got to say, I was a bit surprised by this game. I thought that Washington State has obviously shown us that they're much improved this year. They went to Arizona last week, beat a decent Wildcats team, decent team, 45-42. I did not expect. I thought this was going to be a good game for a half. I thought Stanford would pull away in the second half, win by 2 or 3 scores. But after I watched the first half, that's what I thought going in. But after I actually watched the first half, I thought, hey, yeah, we're in for a really good game here. And I didn't know that it was going to be such a high-scoring game with so many big plays in the second half. Great game, but it really delivered on this one, and certainly sets up Stanford to take home the North Division championship with work to do, of course.
Sure. Yeah, they've got tough games coming up though for Stanford. They still got Oregon, they still got Cal, and they still got Notre Dame. But I feel like every team that has a good run every season has a game like this where they have to find a way to pull out a win when sort of all facts and logic suggest they probably shouldn't. And I guess this week was just their week to do that. Hopefully they get back to work in the running game and get Christian McCaffrey back on board and going. But this is a good win, and I guess this is just what you have when you have a well-coached team with lots of senior leaders on offense.
Hey, Nick, before I let you go, too much emphasis placed on the college football playoff. Obviously, this is what is the culmination of the season, and the reason you play competitive sports is to determine a champion. It just seems like with the position that Washington State was in, had they won this game, they take over the North Division lead. Doesn't seem like that was really the emphasis placed on the storylines concerning this game, or that Stanford wants to win, first and foremost, a tangible championship, which would be the Pac-12 championship that they can control. Just seems like the college football playoff is taking over everything in regards to the mindset of the fans and the media.
Yeah, I think that's probably inevitable, much in the same way the Super Bowl kind of takes over or dominates everyone's attention in the NFL. Um, it just sort of happens, uh, you know. But I think Coach Shaw's doing really well in getting his guys to focus on just the team in front of them, control the things they can control. You can't make it to the playoffs in October. You can only miss out on them. So I think that's what he's trying to focus on. But we as journalists and fans and writers, we get to do that, so we can jump ahead to the really really exciting stuff. But I don't think that's a problem in on the farm anyway.
Nick Dempsey joining us from the Rule of Tree, Stanford's platform on SB Nation. Nick, I'm only not just appreciative of the time and the analysis, but also impressed with you keeping your wits and being able to provide the analysis just seconds after the last second went off the clock and Stanford survived.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad I wasn't a coach. Just write about it. Don't have to coach it.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
Anytime.